vegans. We're a mixed bag. If we were a bag of dairy-free revels, I'd probably be the coffee one.
What better way to celebrate the fact that no one can file a copyright strike against me, seeing as I never use any of their footage, than to make a video using none of anyone's footage again? It's pretty easy not to do that for me, because I have more than enough content in here that I like to get out. It's catharsis, isn't it? But no one can file copyright against my own experience, so there. Anyway, this is part of a collaboration, and it's designed to celebrate the diversity amongst vegans and the diversity of the vegan community, which I know is a fairly sketchy concept still. And I suppose from my perspective, the community is basically just people that are vegan that have YouTube channels and then their audiences. It's not a physical community, and it's not really a network either, because you never really know who's watching your videos and why. If anyone out there is reached in any way by anything that I say or has any comments, I always like to hear them and address them, and I'm pretty active in my comment section. I've got 11 questions that I'm going to answer about veganism. And I'd like to also shout out to Jessica22, who is the person who asked me to be part of this collaboration. I think it's a great idea, and hopefully I'll do your questions justice. So question 1, what is your opinion on a new vegan purging all the leather items or animal products, food, and also anything that's tested on animals? As soon as you become vegan, should you just chuck all of that away? Well, I don't think we should have hard and fast rules on this. For me, I have a lot of leather shoes because I'm from the town in England where it's home to a very big shoemaker with a lot of history, and obviously that's always been leather, because I mean synthetic leather is fine but it doesn't last as long. So if we're being really honest about it, which I'd hope that we would be as vegans wanting to promote our message as opposed to lie about things, leather does last longer and it seemed to be higher quality, and that's what I always was brought up to think. So the leather stuff that I already own is good quality, it's already dead, I can't go back in time and save the animals that it's made from. Personally, I'm going to keep all of those, and when I use them I'm going to think really carefully about where they came from, and I always do. Even the smell of leather makes me reconsider what veganism means to me, and I think that's quite important. I would never buy anything new that's leather now, and that's quite difficult. I was in TK Maxx looking at handbags. I'm not supposed to do that, so I'll get in trouble for saying that. I've never really owned an expensive handbag in my life. I've never been a person that has designer labels on anything that I wear or own. Just look at the crap ones, and a lot of the ones I couldn't really tell if they had any leather bits on them, so I'm always like pulling out all of the packaging from the inside. You know how they stuff bags full of other plastic bags and stuff to make them so you could see what they were like if it was full of all your shit. Not literally your shit. It's not always easy to find out what these things are made of. Battery's gonna run out, back in a sec. Always think about the fact that animals died for those things. When those things wear out, I'll get rid of them and I won't buy them again. I probably won't even buy things that look like leather. That would be a bit weird. I don't know why I think that'd be a bit weird. It's not for any kind of greater reason other than it's a feeling. That's all it is. Things like makeup though, and products that are tested on animals, I go through those things much quicker. Again, I spend a lot of time now reading labels, and it really annoys me when TK Maxx again. I like getting toiletries and shampoo and bath and shower stuff there, just because you get huge great bottles for like a £5 and then it lasts for ages. I get annoyed when they stick the price over the top of the bit where it tells you whether it's tested on animals or not. I've found a lot of brands that I know now, and I'll do a video about that I suppose at some point. It seems to be the done thing that people do. What's in my cupboards or whatever. So I won't be throwing any of that away either. I mean, I have things in my house. There is milk in the fridge and there are animal products in the freezer because my husband isn't a vegan and my child is only a vegan when it's just he and I at home. Him and me at home. I'm not evil for that. It's just the way it is sometimes. We do still live in a world dominated by animal agriculture, so if you tell a medical professional in the UK that you're a vegan when you're seeing them about anything to do with your diet and they ask you what you eat and you say, well, I don't eat meat or dairy, and they're like, oh well, make sure you're getting your protein, you know, that age-old question. But it's not actually as easy as people make it out to be. You do have to put some thought into it, as you do with anything. Like, people are constantly deficient in things. Everyone's deficient in everything, especially vitamin D. So there's no bloody sunshine. Where we're having a heat wave, I'm sitting in a room where everything's pink in the new house and the carpet's awful, like carpet that was put in the 90s, got stains all over it. And so I just thought I'd set up the camera in the tiniest spare room, because I cleared all the crap out of it the other day, and there's space to flap my arms around. So I thought I'd put my camera in here and then I could just leave it. It would always be at the same angle, apart from when I had to replace the battery just now. Anyway, I've gone slightly off topic. So the second question, do I think games and apps like farming or cooking games promote a non-vegan lifestyle? That's a very interesting question. I assume we're talking about things that would add an extra layer of removedness. So you're not only removed from where your food comes from in the normal way, so you don't see it being killed or you don't see it being farmed, but you're also then gamifying that farming process or that cooking process and making it inconsequential. So in the game you might have consequences, but those don't have any real life consequences. The jury's kind of out on this. So I use a lot of gamification in the field that I work in. I'm currently trying to figure out how we can use gamification to improve the lives of people with mental illnesses, especially those like myself who have some sort of cognitive effects of their mental illness, so memory problems or problems with executive function that affect your decision making. It doesn't mean that you're unreliable, it just means it might take you longer to kind of go through the usual process of making a decision, and you might find it more stressful. Doesn't mean that you're incapable of living your life necessarily, it just means that you're gonna find it more problematic than most people. Yeah, many people are incapable of making decisions, but that could apply to anybody, not just people with mental illnesses. So none of us take an exam before we have a child or open a bank account, do we? So, well, I haven't taken one. Don't know why I said that like that. So I don't know if gamification would necessarily interfere with veganism. I don't know if gamifying things makes you more or less connected to them, because it could well make you think, I wonder how an actual farm works. If cooking in this game is this hard, I wonder what it's like in reality. It depends on the game. So if it's a well-designed game, depending on what the goal of the game is, if the goal of the game is that the game makes a lot of money for the person who's made it, then obviously they probably don't give a crap what you think at the end of it. But it's unlikely to be a successful game if it hasn't got some thought behind it, if it doesn't connect with people on some level. So you've got things like Candy Crush, where it's about problem solving. When you look past all the ridiculous pink stuff, she says, sitting in a pink room, you see that your brain likes problem solving, and that's why it's so satisfying to do that. So if you peel back the layers of most games, you will find that they tap into things that our human brains enjoy. I think people tend to enjoy the ritual of cooking, so I know lots of people who enjoy cooking, but then after you've cooked it, you're like, oh, I've lost interest in it now. I just wanted to do the cooking part because it's satisfying somehow. If anybody out there is a vegan software developer or a vegan programmer or a coder, come up with an idea with a bunch of other people that have complementary skills, introduce gamification to veganism. How about that concept? And this is why I think it's really important when we talk about a community that we focus on, rather than what we as vegans can yell at meetings meat eaters about. Rather than thinking about how much we can put other people down and make them realise the error of their ways, how about we put our heads together and we share our skills, and we then come up with a way to boost our profile and tap into the public consciousness like that. So the role that I have chairing the London committee of a mental health charity is to pull together a committee of people that have complementary skills. Perhaps we can influence policymakers, and that I'm always talking about that. I know, you know, when I was criticising Durin rider defenders in Chiang Mai, all I was really saying was stop worrying about the strategy of how we defend this person who's been a bit stupid and has said things he shouldn't have said. Why not we focus on the fact that you're passionate and driven, and you can use that to do something much more inventive and much more impactful that will affect millions of other people. Question 3. Do I think it's important for a vegan to buy organic? In a word, no. At the point we're at now, it's just more important to get people to eat plant-based diets, full stop, for health reasons, and so that it's normalised, so that veganism becomes a normal thing. Gluten-free is becoming accepted as a normal thing now. It's a thing. Until we get veganism to that point, I don't think we need to be too worried about whether people are eating organic or not. Personally, I would rather eat organic, but I don't have the money to buy organic. And also, in this country at least, the label organic doesn't necessarily always mean what you think it means. There are varying qualifications to call something organic, and I don't know whether the boundaries of that get pushed slightly. So we have to look right back into the chain and find out, where are these things really coming from? Is that process as a whole going to harm more animals than we would if we were just eating meat? Question 4. What's my opinion when it comes to pet ownership, desexing and pet adoption? Next weekend I'm hoping to go to a local animal rescue centre and ask about rehoming a cat. From when I was very small, we've always had animals around us, and they've always been rescue animals. We've never bought something from a pedigree litter or anything like that. And it would never enter my head to do that. For me, getting a pet involves going to a rescue centre. I don't have any qualms about doing that, because again, just like with the organic thing, we're still at a point where domestication is the norm. So we have a crap load of cats and dogs out there that have suffered because of domestication, and I would rather rehome one of those animals than see it be killed. I can also see the other side of it, which is the more that we do that, the more that trade will continue. So we are supporting that industry in some ways by doing that. I don't know the ins and outs of it enough to know how we could reverse engineer that so that we undomesticate animals. I mean, it would involve domesticated animals effectively becoming extinct. I think that's quite a quandary, knowing whether that's better than continuing with domestication. As a rule, I don't agree with domestication. We should never have domesticated animals. Animals shouldn't be serving us, but there are situations on Earth where we wouldn't be able to survive unless we had animals. We're just another animal on this planet. There is always going to be a pecking order. It's just that we seem to have the ability to push it to the nth degree. When it comes to desexing, again, I think we need to do that so that we don't end up with more animals that don't have homes. Desexing in itself is kind of barbaric, and it takes away the choice of that animal to do what they want with their own sex organs. But it kind of is what it is, and I think if you're not realistic about it, then, you know, we can't begin to undo that. I hope there are people out there who are doing the thinking around how do we perhaps stop with this endless churning out of domesticated animals that then we have to kill because there's nowhere for them to go. Can we reverse engineer things? If we desex enough animals, is that stopping the problem? Is it just keeping it static? Is it reversing that problem? I don't know the numbers, I don't know the stats behind that, so it's quite difficult to comment on that with any amount of authority. But in principle, yes, I disagree with domestication and desexing, but I think in the position we're in, they have to happen. Question 5. When thinking about what it is to be vegan, do I consider kindness to all people part of being vegan? Yes, I do. People tend to inherently care about things in order to come to veganism in the first place. If you didn't care, then what would be the point? I mean, I suppose for health reasons. Everybody has their own version of what it means to be vegan. Humans are animals, so therefore I don't want to cause harm and suffering to humans. Being kind to people has always been something that I have cared about. I have been horrible to people along the way in my life, and I don't mind apologising. In fact, I like apologising. It makes me feel good, and that's not altruism. I know there's a consequence for me which is positive, so of course I want to do it. I think humans are very selfish beings, and that's possibly why we are at the top of the food chain. I don't know, we've got the selfish gene. So yeah, humans are bastards really, and I've discovered a whole new level of love for humans when I've had a child. Normally love starts really big and then it kind of diminishes and then it sort of falls off a cliff eventually. When you have a child, it starts off like fairly big, but then it just somehow does get bigger and bigger, and it's hard to imagine that happening. And I remember thinking that before I had a child, how could you have two children? How can you possibly love the second one as much as I love my one child? I was looking at a picture of him the other day and just going, I sort of want to send this to everyone I know and say, look at this child, he's beautiful, he's amazing. Well, most people feel that way about their children. That's why having a child is such an amazing experience. Not just in a selfish way though, and because I mean having children is kind of selfish. We have to be selfish as a species in order to survive. Like otherwise we'll become extinct. There are still huge unpopulated areas of the earth. Actually, it makes me laugh that lots of the people that are against having children are from Australia, where there's hardly anybody. There's nobody in Australia. They won't let anybody in there. So kind of ironic really, isn't it? You know, wanting to have children is a selfish desire. I have no problem admitting that. Who cares if it's selfish? It's not unkind to anyone, so do it. Have a child. Have a child. Teach them about veganism. They learn from us. Every generation we get smarter. We sometimes shoot ourselves in the foot a bit with technology, but in general we improve stuff. The world can be better. Where was I going with this? Oh yeah, so love just grows and grows for your child, and you wonder how that's happening. It's something I think about on a daily basis, because I see my child and I'm just immediately filled with joy. And that's a funny feeling for me because I have borderline personality disorder, which is now going to be known as emotionally unstable personality disorder. I have a tendency to either feel everything very passionately in a very chaotic way all at the same time, or just be completely switched off. I've been suicidal even in the last week actually, and it's scary because it's not happened for so long. But then, you know, the same day I look at my child, he could just be doing something really dull, and I think, oh my god, I'm feeling joy. It's a very strange experience in general. Having my child has made me understand how important it is to remember that kindness to humans falls under veganism. We do need to look after each other. Look after your own little patch of things before you go off trying to interfere with other people's things, you know? I'm not the best at doing that, and I'm probably one of the worst, but at least I'm conscious of it. Question 6. How do I feel about the current debates and arguments between vegan YouTube content creators? I started making this video 2 nights ago, and in that time everybody's channels have been deleted apart from Freely Enduring Riders. It's very likely that people who've become vegan are looking for some meaning somewhere. They're looking for something. We've come here in the same way that people do join cults and do become religious, or, you know, join a club. We want to belong as humans, so it's very natural that when we find something that we want to belong to, we want it to be full of only the best people. So we're going to be super critical of everyone else in that sort of network. And that's why it happens. So as much as we want it to be all peace and love, it is fairly natural for it to happen. It's kind of unfortunate now that it's got to the stage of it. I can't honestly believe that people who are my age are trying to get each other's channels deleted. Seems odd to me. Thing is, they have time because other people pay for them to have time to do that. So just be aware, if you're supporting them on Patreon or watching their videos, then the money they're getting from it's not going towards veganism. It's very tiring. I can't even keep up. One day I'm just watching content, next day open YouTube and I can't find any of the channels that I watched yesterday. But it's fairly natural, unfortunately. It's sort of got to a fever pitch. Who knows where it will go from here. It's very exciting, isn't it? I'm kind of glad that I'm sitting on the sidelines and not using anyone else's content. I'm not slandering anyone, I'm just talking about myself. For once, that is a bonus. Question 7. Why do I think non-vegans have a negative view of vegans? I'll refer you back to point 6 here. If you're a non-vegan and you think, veganism, I might go and have a look at what that's all about. Go onto YouTube. You are gonna be a bit put off, aren't you, really? You're gonna be like, well, these people don't actually care. They can't get on with each other. Even if I wanted to eat plant-based, I probably wouldn't want to call myself a vegan. And I was in that camp because I thought, this is gonna look bad if I do this. I don't want to be associated with all this nonsense. I don't really want to tell other people how to live their lives because my life isn't perfect, so it would be a bit rich for me to kind of start trying to tell other people what to do. I can tell them what not to do, I can ask them nicely, but I can't go around ordering people to do things. What was my point? When I first came looking for veganism, the first thing I found obviously was Freely. I then found Durian Rider and I thought, who are these maniacs? Sorry, Henya, I was using maniacs in a different sense. I honestly thought they were idiots and I still do. And it did put me off. And that's why people think vegans are mouthy and desperate to tell you about veganism, because those people are desperate to tell you about veganism. And I think that in some ways, I hate to say it, but it comes from an insecurity. It comes from not being comfortable enough in your own vegan skin. Getting so defensive makes people think that you're not secure in what you believe in. That might be on a very unconscious level. It would be a sort of subconscious signal that you weren't secure in yourself and you weren't secure in your beliefs, and that's why you get defensive if anyone criticises you and you jump straight down their throat. Number 8. What are your thoughts on people who choose to buy animal products from local farmers rather than mass-produced animal products from supermarkets and butchers, etc.? I'm from a farming community. I spent a lot of time on farms when I was growing up. I think it's important to try and move away from mass-produced stuff. I certainly don't want factory farming in the form that it takes in America. I don't want that coming to the UK. We've already got very large slaughterhouses with sort of gas chambers that pigs go into. There's lots of those, and I think it's very positive when people take a stand and say, look, I want to support these local farmers that do the best they can. I know it's hard to imagine that you would kill something that was important to you, but I would rather support that than support. I mean, sometimes you have to choose the lesser of two evils, right? I think it's great if people make a conscious effort to do less harm, and that's really what we need to remember is the key. It's baby steps, really, isn't it? You can't just go from where we are now to 0 straight away. It's not going to work, because then you end up with humans that will die because they won't have an income or they won't have a food source. Number 9. What is your opinion of PETA or other animal activist groups such as the RSPCA and the ASPCA? There's been a bit of spot of bother about the RSPCA here recently. I can't even really remember what it was. There have always been questions around how ethical their rescue centres are, the reasons that they might kill animals, put them down. I think it's very important that we have a service like that, so if you find particularly wildlife, species that we need to protect the habitat of, you need to know what to do when you find an injured animal. So they're important in those circumstances, are a good knowledge base for people to learn about animals. Sometimes I wonder what the point is, because then we just end up with, because it's so easy for people to get rid of animals, it makes animals seem more throwaway. A lot of humans not treating each other well, and I don't think they're a good example. I think we need to make it our business to be doing what they do. And I don't mean us as vegans, I mean us, everyone, as humans, as societies, as communities. We should be looking after animals who are in those communities, animals that we love and care about and that live amongst us. We should be looking after them because they're supported by public money, donations. The conditions that the animals that they rescue live in are not great, and so I don't know if that adds to the problem or not. Again, it's something I don't really know enough about, but I do think it's something that we need to be pushing the onus back onto the public to actually change the way that we treat animals rather than boosting those services. Question 10. Why do you think some people stop being vegan? God, there could be so many reasons. I could see people stopping being vegan if they find it very problematic because they are under a lot of stress on a daily basis. They might eat something by mistake, or they might give in to temptation one time when they're in the transition, and then because there's so much judgment that goes around about that, they'll be like, oh well, fuck it, whatever, I've done that now, so I might as well quit. There's been videos of people going, oh, why, I'm so annoyed that I'm not vegan anymore, as if, you can only call yourself vegan up until you accidentally eat a bit of cheese or whatever. It's ridiculous. Another thing that YouTube contributes to. I think people stop being vegan when they're not in families that support their choices or respect their choices. If they live in places where eating meat is part of celebration. In the UK, we have like Sunday roast is a huge part of a lot of people's lives. It's what brings those families together, families that might be sort of in the week, hardly speak to each other, don't know what's going on in each other's lives, will come together and eat on a Sunday, and that the centerpiece of that dish will normally be meat. I think it's a generational thing as well. I think if you've got lots of people from older generations in your family, you do tend to consume more meat. They were brought up to think that eating lard was perfectly healthy and smoking cigarettes was healthy, so you can't blame those people for not having all the information, or at least finding it very alien for people not to eat meat. I also think for some people, again, it's about belonging to something, and then when they feel they don't belong anymore, they just stop doing it and find something else. So it depends what your motivation is for being vegan, I think. And then question 11, I don't have enough fingers. There's 10, there's 1. Who is your favourite vegan YouTuber? I don't know. I should have read the questions beforehand. I wanted to go with like an organic response, like organic farming, I didn't want to have that veil in between me and reality. So I didn't read the questions and I wasn't prepared for this one. Who do I think is my favourite one? I don't have a favourite. I like lots of different ones for lots of different reasons. I don't think I like them because of veganism. I don't think I like them because they're vegan. I enjoy what they say about a lot of things. I do want to shout out to Amy, the vegan transition, because she's my friend, and the vegan lass. We're all very similar people with, our lives are sort of similar. I can watch their content. I understand where it comes from. Like Don Bauer, Eyes on Mazard, Vegan Cheetah, Vegetable Police. I like people from the UK because obviously you have a similar sense of humour. But I think for me, the most important thing is it has to be one of two things. It has to be either it makes me think, or it has some sort of a good meaty argument, a bit of intelligent debate, or it's funny, or it's informative. So that's 3. I can't count, so I don't like maths channels. If Hank Green was a vegan YouTuber, he would be my favourite vegan YouTuber, but he's not. I like spoofs, I like documentaries, I like comedy, piss takes, podcasts. I don't like any of the sort of makeup, fashion, lifestyle. I don't like any of that because I don't have any of those things. And they're not interesting to me. I'm not really that kind of person. You might be able to tell. I like American Unicorn, she's funny. Basically, what I'm saying is I like anyone that's the same as I am. That's not what I'm saying at all. Anyway, really hope you enjoyed this video. Again, shout out to Jessica22. Go check, I've linked her channel down below. Go check out all the videos that I've suggested throughout this video, and if you like it, give it a thumbs up, subscribe. I'm gonna try my best to do more videos. I will probably be dropping in on some people's YouNow channels. Come and say hello. Alright, bye guys.